Team Gureño KO Art Sports. We're here with Bob Santos. Man, we spoke about it a little earlier, but congratulations, I feel like, are in order, man. You've been on a good run this year. I feel like probably a long time coming. I know you've been in the game for a long time. What would you say you attribute the success you've been having more recently to?
You know, I'm a big believer in this. Man has plans. God's a master planner. To give you a little background of my family's been in the sport. My cousin fought in the 1956 Olympics, Louis Molina. So my family's been in this game a long, long time. And I attribute to the success, you know, the opportunity came at the right time, but having the experience, working under Joe Gucci, working with Ronnie Shields, working under Emmanuel Stewart. So all those years culminated when the opportunity came that you're able to handle the task at hand. And obviously having great fighters and talented fighters, I mean, obviously helps.
We talked. That's awesome that you worked at the Emmanuel as well. It's a great list of
I was with
mentors
Jose Salaya that had him for a while. So I've been in the gyms where I've been able to pick up a few things from some Hall of Famers, to say the least.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but I feel like you're training a lot of Dominican fighters as well. Is there a certain reason for that? Is it maybe, you know, one of them kind of told like other trainers, or maybe watched that fighter and saw you and were like, oh, hey, maybe he's my guy? Is there a certain reason why a lot of Dominican Republic fighters you have? You
know, obviously my mother's of Puerto Rican descent, and that being said, I have a good understanding of the culture. I grew up in all Hispanic area in East San Jose, and so I think they kind of ingratiate themselves to me, and I ingratiate myself to them, and understand the culture. And I think the mesh is second to none. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, man, it's all like lechon and arroz con gandules, right? All that. I'm half Puerto Rican myself, so yeah. Man, let's talk about your fight, your fighter with Hector Garcia facing Tank. I was kind of surprised, being that Hector was coming up for 130, that he was towering over Tank. Well, Tank's not like a real tall guy, but was that maybe kind of seeing them face to face, seeing Hector's size? Was that I don't know, bring any comfort, bring any strategy maybe to the idea of like, oh hey, we have a good size advantage over this guy?
No, because I had Mario Barrios that fought Gervonta. I've seen Gervonta in the gym many times against 147 pounders. I know what he brings to the table. He's a big puncher. I've had him in with 3 of my fighters actually to spar. 2 of my fighters helped him get ready for you know, the Santa Cruz fight. So I don't take too much into that in terms of the height, but Hector's a very, very solid guy. He's going to be a very solid guy at 135 pounds. And at the end of the day, the skills pay the bills, and we're going to, you know, test our skills against him. And I think Hector brings a lot to the table with his amateur pedigree, the Pan Am Games, the Olympics, and so I think at the end of the day, that's what's going to be the telltale on who wins or loses the fight.
You said you've seen Tank in the gym a lot. I had you guys spar with him. You saw him spar 147 pounders. I hear a lot of kind of gym legend about Gervonta and kind of his sparring and things like that. Did you seeing that in the gym, were you kind of already aware going in with Barrios, like, man, this is going to be a tall task?
You know, with the Barrios fight, I felt there was, you know, in hindsight, you could say we could have fought a couple different ways. It turned out to be, it is what it is. You can't do nothing to change it now. But no, being said, I was confident that Barrios had a good opportunity to win that fight. If you look in the 10th round, you know, it's Floyd Mayweather goes up to him and says, hey man, you need a knockout. You're losing this fight. So, you know, I was confident he could win the fight. Obviously, it didn't turn out that way. One punch can change anything. But that being said, Hector Garcia is a different animal. He's been in with everybody. He's seen everything under the sun. I've had him in there with sparring guys that are much bigger than him too, that are big punchers. So I'm not overtly concerned. But again, I was impressed with Tank when I watched him spar, and to say that I wasn't, you know, obviously would be a lie. I was very impressed with him. But when I watch Henry Luis Garcia spar too, I'm very impressed with him too.
That's awesome. Normally I would ask, I try to get predictions from people. I normally ask how they think Tank versus Ryan would go, but I would assume you'd be like, it probably doesn't go because your guy would win, right? Like your guy Hector Garcia. I'm talking about Tank versus Ryan Garcia. Mm-hmm. If that fight were to happen, how stylistically do you think that plays out?
You know, Obviously, I think Gervonta pound for pound is one of the best fighters in the world, and I'm not saying that just because you know, we're building up our fight or whatever the case is. I truly believe that. I think he's the best 135 pounder in the world. I've seen all the 135 pounders. I've seen all of them spar. I've seen them all fight in person. I think he by far is the best. That being said, you know, with Ryan Garcia being with Joe Goossen, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Joe. I worked under Joe Goossen. I learned a tremendous amount from Joe Goossen. So I know what he can bring to the table. So I think with Joe, the head charge, you know, it'd be a very, very, very tough fight. That said, I still like Gervonta's punching power, and I would favor Gervonta in that fight.
Last prediction I'd like to get from you. Hopefully a fight, it sounds like it's signed already. David Benavides versus Caleb Plant. Stylistically, in the ring, how do you think that one plays out?
You know, it's going to be a great fight. It's going to be a tremendous fight. You know, Benavides, you know, I was able to work with him for a short time and watch him train every day, him and his dad. So he's a tremendously talented fighter. I don't think he gets enough credit for how smart he is. He can make a lot of adjustments. A very, very intelligent fighter in the ring. And he could do a plethora of different things. That being said, Caleb's a consummate boxer. He's great defensively. I just think Benavides at some point will be too much for him. I think the fight will be going, you know, pretty close to a degree, but I just think as the rounds goes on, Benavides will make the adjustments, and I think at some point he'll probably end up stopping him towards the end of that fight.
Man, last one. Your guy Carlos Adonis had a sensational victory against Montiel a month or two ago. I know that was for the interim belt WBC. Obviously, Jamal's the main guy. Any news on that, and any movement maybe towards that fight coming together?
You know, I don't know. Obviously, Al Heyman, Louis DeCutis Jr. You know, they work with Adonis and make those types of decisions. As far as me, just as a trainer, my job is to get them prepared and be ready for anybody. That said, I know the Charlos very well, both of them. I think, again, they're truly talented fighters. Their accomplishments speak for themselves. But that said, I just think Carlos Adonis is just slightly different animal. Obviously, he's my fighter, so he's coming from a biased perspective. But I've seen the Charlos in with Lara, another fighter that I work with many rounds. And I think, you know, just taking a step back and not trying to get caught up in it with your heart, so on and so forth. I think Adonis is a different animal. I think Adonis, if they were to fight, there's no doubt in my mind, would be victorious. And at the end of the day, we have one common opponent. He fought Montiel, and Montiel was pushing him down the stretch, and we obliterated him in 3 rounds. No disrespect to Montiel, but again, I've seen Carlos Adonis in with everybody. Everybody. Sparring, and when that guy's in shape and that guy's focused, he is a different animal. It's to the point where I got to spar him with heavyweights. He's a different animal.
I heard some stories back in the day of him sparring Virgil back in Robert Garcia's gym, and those sparrings being like just good sparring, good work.
Well, you know, I wasn't there for that. I don't know how that went, but I can tell you one thing: being his head trainer, being around him these last couple fights, I've seen him in with everybody. And when he wants to turn it up and stop people in sparring, I've seen him do it many times. I will say this: our last, and we had some pretty good sparring partners in the Montiel camp. He stopped every sparring partner we had. So that's when I said, okay, we got to start sparring him with heavyweights. So Carlos Adonis is a different animal, and he's a tremendous puncher.
Man, I've heard the stories. Hopefully we get the fight. Bob Santos, thank you so much for your time. And tell the fans where they can follow you on social media, gym, maybe your gym, whatever.
You know what? I don't have any social media, but you guys could probably find my son out there, Jay Santos, and he's on Instagram, so on and so forth. So that younger generation can kind of go that. I have too much focus in the gym.
For sure. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.